Welcome to the Movie Potluck Podcast, the podcast where you never know what dish the guys are bringing to the party. Movie reviews of the films that might have slipped right off your plate and gotten snatched up by Grandma's mean old poodle. Behind the scenes info that might just have that secret ingredient you've been craving all day. Special guests, surprise interviews, a lot of laughs, and much, much more. Now, here's your host, Big Bear Joe and Bigger T.
What's up, yo? It's your boys back again. It's been a little bit. I ain't seen you, Big T, in a while. How you been, man?
Man, doing good. Joey, how you doing, buddy?
I've been busy. I know you've been busy too, so
looks like you got a little sun.
Yeah. I was at the track meet today watching my niece run and jump and throw a softball and jump little hurdles and do hula hoops and all kinds of stuff out there today. So,
good times, good times.
I'm glad you brought that up because probably looks like I'm about to have a heart attack right now.
No, man. Just looks like you been out in the sun a little bit today. Nothing too bad. Got that glow about you. Yeah. The soul glow.
Movie today is going to be Vengeance.
Man, I'm ready for this potluck, buddy. I'm ready for this potluck.
Yeah. This is a surprise one. I mean, this is like we talked about before, man. You don't know what's coming to the party. This one's a surprise. It's like there's something on the top. There's a crust. You get down to the middle of it, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Something tastes a little different.
So, Joey, tell me this real quick before we get into the synopsis of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to watch this movie from the get-go?
I had heard it advertised, and when I say advertised, I'm like I heard BJ on several podcasts, and BJ Novack wrote it and directed it. And I'm a huge fan of The Office, and I know he was a big part of it. You know, everybody sees his character on The Office and like, oh, he's just kind of the side character. No, he was a main cog in that show. I mean, he wrote pretty much most of the memorable shows. So I'm like, okay. You know, it's got to be good. And he didn't really give too much information away on this podcast or whatever, but enough to kind of bait you on there. And it's like, it's be different, you know.
Yeah.
That's what we both like, something different, something outside the box. And so what drew you to this movie?
It's the same for me, man. Huge Office fan. Know that he was, he wrote and directed a lot of the Office episodes and was a key cog in those. And so, just saw that he had done a movie. And so I was already intrigued right then, right. I'm in the same with John Krasinski and Steve Carell stuff, everybody else. And then I watched a preview for it,
right.
And I was like, okay, wait, that's interesting. Yeah, that sounds like an interesting movie. And so, jumped on it when I got a chance to watch it, and I wasn't let down at all. It was a surprisingly good film, and one of the things we try to do here is kind of pick out films that maybe didn't get the publicity that that some of the other big films do in the industry, and so this is one of those, definitely. And some of you may be hearing about it for the first time, hearing us talk about it.
Right. And honestly, to be completely honest with you, I heard about it and had it on my list and hadn't got around to watching it until you were like, hey, man, you need to watch this. Mm-hmm. So it was you pushing me to watch it. And I was like, Big T's right again.
And it was a bored Friday or Saturday night looking through Amazon Prime for me is why I watched it, and I was reminded that I'd seen it, ran across it online. And so anyway, just to give a synopsis real quick of what's going on here. BJ Novack is the main character. He's a, he's a writer and a wannabe podcaster in New York City.
Right.
Kind of a playboy.
Yeah, kind of.
And when he talks about it, he sort of wrote his character about himself, kind of a, sort of the character is similar to who he sort of is, sort of the, city guy, early in the movie, he gets a phone call, and it says this is going to be the most. How is it? How do they say it?
I think he says, "This is the worst phone call you're ever going to get," or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Right.
And it's the brother of a girl that he had been hooking up with, I guess you could say, is the best way to say it.
Right.
He, but he's, like I said, kind of a playboy. He didn't know who this was calling him. Okay.
Right.
But this guy calls and says she's died, and through the conversation and everything, and this brother is played by Boyd Holbrook, and we'll talk about him later.
Right.
Ty Shaw is his name in the movie. He, sets him up to come to the funeral. And so here he is, he tries to get out of going to the funeral and goes to it. And so he ends up going to West Texas. And so, and it's an interesting conversation on where it is in Texas. But anyway, I'll let you watch the movie and hear that. But it's outside, it's a ways from Abilene, Texas, if you know where that's at. Okay? So he's deep in the heart of Texas.
Yeah.
And so he goes there, and when he gets there, he sees that these people are, what kind of what a lot of the city folks think of middle America, flyover state type people, or Texas, what they would think of Texas people. They're, conservative, crazies, like their guns. They, conspiracy, think everything's a conspiracy, that everything's, and of course they think it's a conspiracy of how this girl had died.
Right.
And so he comes up with an idea of doing a podcast, but the podcast is kind of focused on sort of the craziness of these middle America, Texas people that are into all these conspiracies and everything. But through it, his eyes are open to kind of lots of different things. There's, well, maybe they ain't so crazy. Maybe there's some positive things that those people have too, especially with family. They end up kind of some bonding there that happens and things like that. There's some great characters in this. The family, some great characters. The grandmother is funny, just a great character there. It's sort of a dark comedy. It's got its funny stuff, and it's got Ashton Kutcher is in it, which is interesting. He gets Ashton Kutcher to be in this since Ashton gave him his break on this TV show Punk'd. And so Ashton comes and plays an interesting character in this as a record producer and someone that plays a key role in this. Anything I'm missing from the?
No, it's like you said, he's out in the middle of nowhere, and I think if you think about it, I think Ashton Kutcher is pretty much the only other person in the movie that's like, well known. I mean, you go and look at some of the other actors. Of course, they've been in this ton of stuff, but and which I like that because we get introduced to people, that and that's another thing we talked about. Not just introducing movies, but introducing some of these character actors that kind of fly under people's radar. And but as far as the story goes, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. Don't want to really give away the ending or whatever, but it's just, strange to me. Just this film is full of irony, because the first of it, he's having this discussion about, how we're disconnected from people and, everybody's kind of in their own bubble the way it is. But then he literally is he's his own stereotype of that. He's the stereotype of the Playboy East Coast, big city guy looking down on, quote unquote country folk or whatever you want to call them, and it's like, you don't understand that you just got through talking about that. And then you are that now, when he goes to Texas, but it's definitely a fish out of water. story. And like you said, it's a dark comedy, man, you know, and to me, there's parts of it that just almost kind of scream like Raising Arizona kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And we're both, you know, big fans of that movie. So, you know, and it's got layers to it though. You know, I mean, it's very, you know, sentimental in places, and it's very like eye-opening places, and it really just kind of ends up being him on like this introspective journey, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's got some deep philosophical
absolutely
stuff, especially Ashton Kutcher's character brings a lot of that.
Right.
You know, that just you know, some of the conversations he has, you're just like, is this the same guy from that 70s show?
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's there's some stuff he's talking about. It's like, you know, is this Yoda? Is this Mr. Miyagi or something? Is this some wise old sage or something?
But it's so good, and he pulls it off so well. He does so.
Yeah, and there's parts of that like I wouldn't say it's like, you know, give him an award, but there are little moments in that movie that he's doing some serious acting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like showing some emotion and stuff and doing some stuff. You're like, man.
Well, and I think too, I think in real life,
right,
it plays to his strengths, because Ashton Kutcher has, because of roles he's played. I mean, he started with Punk'd, you know, and that 70s show and all that kind of stuff, you know, and he, you know, he's kind of always been this goofball, but in real life, he came up a hardworking, you know, guy from Iowa, working, you know, manual labor jobs growing up, and he, but he's also very smart. I mean, he's a brilliant entrepreneur,
right?
You know, and you know, and has kept up with technology, and is, you know,
he's a guy, a blue collar mentality, but he had Hollywood good looks, and he's got a good sense of humor. So he got like pretty much typecast and stuff, you know. But like,
and that fits his. And that fits his character in this, because his character is a record producer that really sees the art and tries to get the art out of these people in this West Texas town, and tries to get the most out of them. And yet he's, you know, he could be off doing something more in bigger and better places, you know, if he was, you know, off in LA or something like that. So I'll tell you another character that really intrigues me. Boyd Holbrook, who plays Ty, the brother, which he's been in some movies, but we've always seen him kind of as a straight character. And in this one, he plays a straight, and by straight, I'm talking like not the goofy, you know, he's not necessarily a goofy guy, but like in this one, he plays he ends up being a key to a lot of the comedy. But he doesn't know he's being funny. He's just being himself.
Right.
You know, he's just that passionate. He's just that, you know, this being kind of who he is, but it comes across and it makes you laugh because just the way he is in it.
Right.
And his relationship with Ben, which is BJ Novack, is an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, it's the brother, like you said, he's a lot of the comedy relief, but he's not. I mean, it's like he's like you said, he's like he's blinded to the fact that we're laughing at him. You know what I mean? Or we're laughing at the situation that he's in or something. You know, and he doesn't push it too hard. Like I mean, he's kind of playing a guy that we all know people like that.
Yeah.
You know, where they're being sincere and you're just like under your breath chuckling or something, you know, kind of thing or whatever. So.
And just a passionate guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you, one of the things that I love is their conversation about Whataburger.
Right.
You know, of course, BJ's, you know, he's recording these podcasts, and so he's recording these conversations with them, and he'll just have some conversations. And so he's like recording one where he's like, all right, tell me about Whataburger. They're like, it's the greatest. You want to go now?
Right.
He's like, well, tell me about it. What's so great about it? They're like, it's Whataburger.
Yeah.
well, what about it?
What's the brother say? He's like,
it's always there.
Yeah, but the brother's like, he said, that's like saying, what's great about Christmas? You know what I mean? He's like, to them, it's like, that's just, it's a no brainer. It's like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
You know?
But when they says, you want to go now?
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that came out of this at the beginning, there's a line they use. Well, I'll give it away. John Mayer makes a cameo in it, right. And him and BJ Novack are talking, and he says, they keep saying it over and over again, 100%, 100%. You know, like I believe you, 100%. You know, and
and their conversation is the most superficial, fake, just a self-absorbed conversation you could pretty much start a film with.
Yeah.
And it just sets the tone for who BJ is, and it's just, but that's what you have to do though to get this story going.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, you see that kind of transformation, you see the ups and downs, and it's very introspective. It's like I said, I mean, he finds out about a lot about himself and about other people and about how much, people are pretty much the same down deep, they all want the same things. They're all connected, and, he finds it out, and sometimes the hard way, but other way, I mean, it's just, that's why I think we both gravitated to this movie, because it's deeper than just this, something that you chuckle at and stuff like that, so.
Oh, I agree. It's, and like you said, and in interviews, he said as much, he said he realized through writing this, that he was too much like his character in a lot of ways, that he thought of people, in a lot of the ways his character thought of people. And that, and then he realized, partially through writing this and doing this, that it was, that people, like the lessons you talked about that he learned there. And so that's it has some intriguing things. It has some twists and turns in it. It has some unexpected stuff. It's well, like I said, like we've talked about, like you've heard, well written. The cinematography is really good. It was filmed in Texas, a lot of it. So it was, very, very true to that.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny moment in there when this is what the twist of this movie is. You'll sit there and have these like emotional moments, and then they'll turn around and have something that makes you just laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're going back and forth. So like, remember when his brother calls, and when he's trying to explain where they live at, remember he's like, Dallas? He's like, the bro's like, that's not even Texas.
Yeah.
He's like, right, yeah. Houston, he goes, that's another country.
Yeah. He said, that's not Texas.
That's not Texas.
That's not Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yeah. And the scene where he's, like I said, he's definitely a fish out of water. It's like the scene where he doesn't realize he's in Texas Tech country. And just, there's some of these moments that, that are just like, I guess if you are, if you're more local or you're into sports or you're like kind of really understand what they're talking about, it's almost like those are kind of inside jokes. Some of them, I imagine probably the average person watching didn't really get that.
Yeah.
But us being sports fans, we're watching it going, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
another intriguing thing is in this whole, that lines this whole thing is, this is a girl that he had seen, and she had told her family, okay, that this was her boyfriend.
Right.
Okay. And so she was affected by him. He just saw her as a casual hookup. Okay. Right. And so that's another lesson he learns in this, is that, those casual, those are real people, and they got real people and real families behind them. And so through this, he learns a lot about her, he finds out that she was a musician through this, and he like listens, that's the connection with Ashton Kutcher's character as the record producer, because he had recorded some of her songs, and he listens to some of her music, and then she's got a little brother that was and he provides a lot of comedy in it too.
Right.
And just some funny parts. What is it they call him?
El Stupido.
El Stupido. Yeah.
But his name's Mason, and the older brother doesn't even know his name's Mason.
Yeah.
Remember,
and the older brother says,
like,
we call him El Stupido. And he goes, and BJ Novak's character looks at him like, what? He goes, it's okay. He don't speak Spanish.
That's the kind of stuff like we're talking about. He's like, you're like, man, you're laughing. He's like, it's like if we were in the room, we'd be laughing. He'd be looking at us going, what are you laughing at?
Yeah.
So, but that's what makes this movie so delicious.
Yeah.
It's because you have a variety of these personalities and these characters. I mean, they play up the stereotypes at times, on both ends, like, BJ's, stereotype of the big city guy. They even, address his background a little bit, poking fun at that, and they do that, but then they turn right around and go, no, this is just stuff on top. There's deeper, these people have, like you said, it's like, the young lady that he was hooking up with is like, no, she's a human being. She has a heart, she has a brain. She's, she was vulnerable, kind of thing. So, but there's a couple of like really poignant moments. And it's the moment that he meets Ashton Kutcher, and he's watching the young girl in the studio sing.
Yeah.
And whenever she like sings the first time, and she's not really putting her heart into it, and Kutcher gets her to really put her heart into it, and she sings phenomenal. And you can just see BJ like going, oh, wait a second. And he starts getting emotional. It's almost like he's a robot, and it's like, what is this thing I feel in my chest, kind of thing, I got a heart. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's a crucial moment, and I think
Ashton Kutcher's speech there, I love it. Like it's so good. He talks about the beginning of time, and whether you believe in a big bang, or that God spoken into existence.
Right.
That it all started with one sound.
Right.
And that you're continuing that sound. Anyway, it's really good. It's one of those, like you said, it's a very poignant moment.
Right.
The other thing about this movie that makes it so interesting, I think, that you almost forget about is happening while you're watching it, is you're trying to figure out the solution to a crime, or what happened. Right. If there was a crime, if there wasn't a crime, because the family thinks that the family thinks that she, they're told she died this one way. They think it was more than that. And so they're, and that's the conspiracy thing that they're getting behind. Right. They think there's other people behind it. And so that's what he's kind of, he starts out not trying to really prove them right. But just he starts his podcast to prove how crazy their conspiracies are.
Right.
It's obvious it was just this one thing that happened. And in it, he finds out, okay, he starts seeing some things. Well, maybe they're not all that crazy. But then he kind of goes back and forth. There's times you think, well, maybe they're, and so that it kind of keeps you going back and forth. So you got this dark comedy,
right?
You got this movie that makes you think.
Okay? Yeah, and it's a thriller. It's a crime thriller,
and it's a crime thriller also.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the dish at the potluck with layers.
Absolutely. Layers. Yeah, and the thing is, it's such an easy watch.
Yeah.
The time goes by because, like you said, you're brought through all these different little paths, and it keeps you engaged. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going, there's not a moment in the movie where you're going, well, this scene's kind of slow or this scene's kind of boring or whatever. It's like, no, there's enough comedy mixed in with the other stuff that it kind of keeps you kind of rolling. It keeps the momentum going in the movie, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you another poignant moment in the movie is at the end when the mom says, you know, BJ's character, she says, you know, life's complicated sometimes. She says, it's even complicated in a place like this, you know, and it's like there's those moments where you see the expression on his face, and there's these moments where it's like he keeps having to get brought back to the fact that these are human beings he's dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, these aren't, and that goes to the speech that Kutcher has later in the movie where he's telling them, he's like, you know, we're all like inspirations to our own record. And it's like, to me, it's like, we look at everybody as like these avatars. You know what I mean? We have this perception of them, you know, from where they're from, what they look like, what job they have, what their educational background is, you know, it's just like, that's the biggest lesson in this whole movie. You know, it's like I said, you know, literally these are people that he comes to make fun of. Yeah. And he ends up enjoying sitting across the table and eating with them.
Yeah.
You know, breaking bread with them.
You're exactly right. I think you're hitting exactly the meta narrative of this whole thing. You think of the time he was probably writing this is at the time when this country was most divided between the cities and, you know, the coastal areas and the flyover states, you know, especially politically. Right. And so there was that tendency to think from both sides to think the others were useless and didn't care about each other, or, you know, were crazy or whatever.
Right.
And as he's writing this, and in this movie, it shows, like you just said, that there's good things and real people and real thoughts in both.
Oh, yeah.
And there's crazies, and there's bad people, and there's those things, but the majority are just real good people that you would enjoy sitting down and breaking bread with. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more commonalities between us than there is differences. And those few differences get magnified sometimes, you know, and, you know, it's like I said, it's just like this, and I don't want to get people away from this, but in some kind of small little moments, it's almost like he's going through a therapy session.
Yeah.
Because he's getting educated just by being around these people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, he's being educated about, like we talked about, he's educated about himself, educated about other people, other cultures. But let me tell you right now, though, I'm going to say something that it kind of cracked me up in the movie. And it's not anything spoiler or anything. I wonder if DJ really, when he wrote this, really like spoke with anybody from the South at all, because the reference to bless you or when they say bless your soul or something like that, remember? And in the movie, it's talked about how if they say that, that's basically like giving somebody the middle finger, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's like, okay, yeah, that can be like that, but it's like other things. It's about how you say it. It also means, it could also be, you know, this, you know, something good.
Yeah.
You know, man, it's always reference to it to be like, you know, you can say have a nice day, or you could say have a nice day. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, there's a dual meaning in saying bless your soul. If, you know, if you hear bad news about somebody, you know, or somebody's family member, you go, well, bless their soul.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's not just the, you know, like it's talked about in the movie. I'm like, which I guess that's just a thing where you're like, you know, it's a little picky little thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what is like your final impression of this? I mean, like it came out last year. And we talked about this. What we try to do is introduce people to movies that maybe they haven't seen or flown under the radar, which movies like this are now even more, you know, apt to fly under the radar because they're not being played in theaters.
Yeah.
Unless you live in a big city or something that has multiple theaters, and there's like an art, kind of artsy kind of more theater or something like that. But like out of, a lot of the movies you watched last year, I mean, how would you put that up there?
It's definitely it's tough, but it's one of the tops, man. It really is. I don't like to rank. It's hard to rank things, but it's definitely, especially for this time and this place, it was one of those that, I didn't know what to expect with it. That makes a difference, I think. There's sometimes you go into movies, like the example I always use was, I was real fired up for for Will Smith's version of that Ali movie.
Right.
And Christmas Day, it came out. I went Christmas Day to watch it. Me and Wesley Rowland went and watched it.
Yeah.
And I was fired up because I'm a big Ali fan, love boxing, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so pumped up about that movie that when I watched it, I didn't like it at first.
Yeah.
Now I think it's a great movie. Okay.
Yeah.
But I had so much expectations for it that my expectations were too high. And then when I watched it, it didn't quite fulfill those,
Right.
But then I watched it later when I was a little more level-headed, and I was like, okay, this is really a good movie.
Right.
But with this one, I didn't have a lot of expectations for it because I'm like, okay, BJ's kind of new to doing movies. This is something different. We'll just see, be interesting to see what he comes up with,
Right.
And I was big time impressed. I think it's a great movie. It's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of funny. It's got a lot of intriguing. Like you said, it's not, you're at the end of it and you don't, you haven't zoned out any,
Right.
So a movie that can hold you, that, doesn't have a ton of special effects and things like that. That's a good movie.
Well, also too, I think it's, some people may not have given the chance to, even people that are into, more movies that are off the radar, because it's a Blumhouse film. And, Blumhouse is known for mainly horror films.
Yeah.
The one they first got them on the map was Paranormal Activity. Of course, they've made a bunch of them since then, and it's Insidious, and, and then they start, it's more psychological thrillers like Get Out and things like that. So I guarantee there's a lot of people that said that are Blumhouse fans who probably didn't even watch this.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really fit in the category of what Blumhouse normally does. Now, they've done, like, you look at their movies, they did like Tooth Fairy with The Rock. You remember that movie with The Rock? And that was early on. But since then, they've done The Purge and all these other kind of things that, like, this movie's nothing like that.
No.
So that'd be another factor in people, you kind of like glossing over this and not really, watching it. So, but
well, folks, we encourage you, if you like movie, if this sounds like something you'd like, go watch it, give it a chance. We'll tell you, it is rated R. With, it's got some drug usage in it. It's got mild language, nothing. A little bit of violence. I think that's it.
I think it just kind of falls under the what they used to, the general thing of adult content.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not really anything specific. It's just,
there's no sexual or anything like that. But it's a good watch. So if you get a chance, check it out. And we appreciate you watching and listening to this podcast. If you have ideas of movies you want us to talk about, or to watch and talk about, we have lists, but we're also always willing to add to the list. So if you got any ideas, leave it in the comments. Let us know, hit us up on social media or wherever you can, and we'll be glad to check them out. If you got suggestions of movies or, anything like that. We don't have a ton of time, but, when we have some time, we can check them out and kind of give our synopsis of them and, kind of what we think. our reviews or whatever we call this. Bring it. We can bring your dish to the potluck.
Right. And at the end of the day, what's the best sign at a potluck is when you walk away and the dish is empty, right?
That's right.
That means everybody liked it.
Everybody
got
liked
a
it.
piece. So
that's right.
Yeah. I think it's about time to wrap it up, brother.
Yes, sir, Joe. It's been a good one.
All right, man.
I'm gonna have to go watch Vengeance again.
Yeah.
Gets me fired up talking about it.
I know it, man.
Folks, thanks for listening. Like and share. Tell your friends, your family, your loved ones, your hated ones. Who cares? Tell them about us, and we're gonna we'll keep making some of these and talking about some good movies. Bring them to the potluck.
Good movies. Yep.
All right.
Good movies. Warm the belly.
See you, Joe.
See you, Big T.
The preceding podcast is the sole property of Bear Meets World Media Group, LLC. Any copying, distribution, or use of its imagery or audio without express written consent is strictly prohibited by law.